Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know, if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down. Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really wanna know, if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down.
Stare into the unknown, 'cause you're a strong girl. You got this, I feel the fight in you. Strong girl, positive, you're gonna see this through. Like a straight up miracle, you're a force to behold. In the face of
Good morning, and we're live. Hello, Reverend Derek here. Happy Sunday. Excited for another opportunity to get together with you and continue our exploration of spirituality, the universal themes of A Course in Miracles. But also, it is December. It's been a year since we started, almost a year, since we started our annual theme of a year of miracles. So for the month of December, we're going to just be continuing this conversation, kind of wrapping it up. We'll obviously continue talking about miracles next year, but I hope you have a year of miracles. And if you haven't, we're going to talk about how you can today. So today's talk is entitled Manifesting Miracles. And if you are someone who is struggling somewhere in life, maybe like there's a place or two in life where you are not at peace, then you need a miracle. And whether that place in life where you're not at peace is your health, your finances, your career, a relationship, anxiety, like whatever it might be, I promise that in today's talk, you're going to walk away with at least one or two ideas that can be extremely helpful for you along your journey in manifesting a miracle. So before we get into the talk, for anyone who is new and watching for the first time, welcome to the Love is Greater Than Fear Spiritual Center. As already said, I'm Reverend Derek. We are a virtual spiritual center with weekly spiritual talks and meditations based on universal spiritual principles. You will hear me talk a lot about a book called A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is not a religion, contains no doctrine, no dogma. This is a book based on universal spiritual principles. And that is the emphasis here. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, if you're Buddhist, if you're Muslim, just doesn't matter. You could be atheist and still learn something today that is universally true that you can then apply to your life. Our vision is to be a spiritual place for personal and planetary awakening. And who is welcome? Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone, literally every single person who's ever lived, who lives, and who will ever live is a child of God. It doesn't matter your gender, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your religious background. Doesn't matter anything you've done, anything you haven't done. It just doesn't matter. You are welcome here. We believe that all of God's children deserve a life of peace, love, freedom, and creative expression. And on top of that, we believe in dismantling the thought systems of fear that would hinder any person's purpose on earth. We believe in love, and we believe that love is greater than fear. Going to skip that slide this morning. Please join me in saying our spiritual declaration together. I surrender this day to God, that he may lead me to deeper peace, greater love, and fuller life expression. I surrender all my fears and desires to him. I ask that he show me the path from fear to love. Amen. All right. And if you do need a little extra spiritual guidance this week, remember, we've got our website. I just dropped it right there in the comment section, loveisgreaterthanfear.org. Just hop over there. Guys, we've got a prayer ministry. We've got classes. We've got a study group, just a ton of great stuff to help support you guys along your journey. So wherever you might be on that journey. So today we're talking about manifesting miracles. We started our theme last January for a year of miracles. And in that time, we have explored miracles in every facet of miracles. We've explored miracles in our body. We've talked about miracles in our purpose. We've talked about miracles in finances. We've talked about miracles in our relationships. We've talked about the spiritual hero's journey and the path each of us are on. We've talked about all of this past year. And for me, it's been an incredible year. I can say that this has been the greatest year of my life. I set out the beginning of the year, I was like, well, I want to live a miraculous year. And I'm sure other people do too, which is why we had that theme, a year of miracles. And along the way, I've had quite a miraculous year. I've done really well at my 9-to-5. Our center is growing. We're doing our first live event here in a couple weeks. My relationships have really grown healthy and grown really strong. Minimal anxiety and depression in my life this past year. And a lot of that has to do with the work I've done with A Course in Miracles. So if you are somebody who is listening right now Or maybe you're listening to the recorded broadcast later and you're thinking, well, how do I live a miraculous life? I promise you, if you just take one or two ideas that we explore today, you can apply those to your life and really begin a transformation for yourself. So I want to start with a reading from A Course in Miracles. This is from the introduction of A Course in Miracles. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So I told you guys this before. The first time I read that, I was just like, whatever, dude. And I took the book and I put it back on a shelf, and it sat on the shelf for, gosh, 7 years or something like that. And then I went through an experience in life where I was like, okay, like I need some serious help. I need some real help in my life. I am just not happy. I'm miserable. I'm just not living the life I know I could live. And I rediscovered A Course in Miracles. And what I find so fascinating about the introduction to A Course in Miracles is it's being really clear and very upfront with you about its perception of reality and also the goal of A Course in Miracles. So the goal of A Course in Miracles is to help you make your journey from fear to love, by realizing that fear and things of the material world are not actually real. Not to say that your physical experience is not happening, but to say that your physical circumstances hold no power over you. Right? The things that are happening in your life, your financial trouble, your health challenges, your relationship challenges, whatever obstacle you face has no actual power over you. This is what I believe that Jesus was teaching us, that Jesus stood there face to face with death and said, death will not stop me. Death means nothing. I live. I am the Son of God. So it's really emphasizes that the physical world can have no power over the children of God, because the children of God created this physical world. So in accepting that the physical world has no real power over us, we can begin to shift our thinking from fear to love. The Course in Miracles is broken up. Excuse me, I had like some cat fur on my face this morning and I can't get rid of it. The goal of the Course in Miracles is to help you make that journey from fear to love. And it does so by offering you some incredible readings on the principles and the teachings of A Course in Miracles. But most importantly, it helps you make this journey from fear to love with the Course in Miracles workbook. The workbook is 365 daily lessons. So one lesson a day for a year. Each lesson contains a mantra, and each lesson has specific ways to use that mantra. It might say, use this mantra once today, use it twice today. It might say to use it every half hour on the dot. And these workbook lessons help us undo our thought system of fear and reconnect with our thought system of love, which is our natural thought system. A Course in Miracles tells us that the thinking of the world is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God. So A Course in Miracles helps us step by step change our thinking. Now, A Course in Miracles is not trying to get you to just be incredibly positive and optimistic about things. It wouldn't suggest that you even utilize positive thinking. What it focuses on is miracle-minded thinking, and what I just simply call spiritual thinking. An example of that is positive thinking could be something like you made a mistake, or maybe you just don't have enough money and you're like, all is well in my universe, I have enough money, and you start affirming the opposite of your experience. We know that psychologically that triggers a very fundamental part of our human brain that's just like, that's a lie. When we talk to ourselves like that, that's what positive thinking is. It's saying something positive in the middle of something negative. Spiritual thinking is very different. Miracle mindset thinking is very different. Let's say that you were a person who is having some type of like financial trouble. Course in Miracles would say to just sit still, turn within to God, and just get really honest with God about what's going on and ask for help. So if you're someone who is having a financial issue right now, conversation for that could sound something like, hey God, I made a financial mistake. Dear God, I just don't have enough money to pay for XYZ. Dear God, and you can go even deeper. I feel really guilty and I feel a lot of shame for whatever it is that caused this. Maybe you made a mistake, maybe you didn't, maybe somebody else made a financial mistake that is impacting you. Whatever it might be, we turn within to God, and miracles, our prayer is the medium of miracles. So it always comes back to prayer. And I always say that the best prayer you could ever say is just a sincere and deeply honest confession to God. So in this scenario, we're talking about money, for example. Dear God, I made a financial mistake. I should have known better. And then you just pour your heart out to God. And then most importantly, you ask for help and ask for a miracle. Dear God, I invite you into my financial situations. Dear God, I invite you into this relationship challenge. Dear God, I invite you into my health challenge. I invite you into this situation and I ask for a miracle. Now we have to ask for help, and that's a really important part of A Course in Miracles teaching, because the mind that your ego mind, and your ego mind is the part of your mind that doesn't remember who it is, and also it's the part of the mind that tends to react and respond lovelessly. So it's a part of the mind where love is not. That's why this work is so important. We go into those recesses in our mind and we shine on the light of love. And that's what helps to heal our mind, our heart, and our experience. Now, let me back up to what I was saying about asking for help. I said this a million times. I say this most Sundays. God and the ego are kind of like vampires. And here's what I mean by that, okay? If you're a fan of vampire mythology, if you watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a kid, anything like that, you know the only way for a vampire to enter your household is by an invitation, right? A vampire must be invited into your household. That's just like a big part of most vampire mythology. And so when I say that God and the ego are like a vampire, here's what I mean. God must have an invitation. God must be invited into your household, i.e., into your consciousness, in order to go to work and to help you. God is never going to break your free will, and your free will is your choice to think, speak, and act with fear, or think, speak, and act with love. That is your only free will, okay? And God's not going to take that away from you. But if you are not happy with your circumstances, then you need to start daily inviting God into your mind and into your heart, so that your thoughts, words, and actions are in alignment with God. Now, the will of God is a very focal point in the Course in Miracles. And the will of God, sometimes when I initially would hear people say the will of God, I'm just like kind of like freaked out. Like, what does that mean, the will of God? A Course in Miracles, the way they explain it is the will of God are thoughts of love. Thoughts of love is the will of God. That is it. That is simple. So when we are thinking with love, we're aligned with the will of God. And when we're aligned with the will of God, we act from our true self and our true nature, not the self that is limited and believes in the physical world and has limitations. We are focusing in on that true, deeper part of ourself that we typically access through meditation and prayer. Because when we think, speak, and act from that place, that's when you're going to feel that intuitive impulse that says, go here, do this, say this, don't say that, creative ideas on ways to make money, creative ideas on how to get your health right and to get healing. And suddenly you're just in the right, perfect place at the right, perfect time. Now, as I said, God is like a vampire and that he needs that invitation into your consciousness. And the same is true for the ego. In order for the ego to run its game with your life, and that's what it's doing, it's running a loveless game. It's doing what it can to keep you from experiencing God. It's doing what it can to keep you from loving other people. It's looking out for its limited self to the extent that it causes extreme complications in not only our individual lives, but in our collective lives. And so what does that look like when we are inviting the ego, inviting the ego into our household, into our consciousness? That's waking up first thing in the morning and thinking with fear, grabbing our cell phone, looking at the news, reading our text messages, responding to emails, things that encourage us into ego types of being. So when we wake up in the morning and our first thought is a worry thought, our first thought is, oh, I have to do this today, and oh, so-and-so did this, and so-and-so said that, whatever your ego thinking looks and sounds like. For an addict, it's getting a drink first thing in the morning. It's using drugs first thing in the morning. And just as, it's interesting in our society, we're really clear about the dangers of addiction to drugs and alcohol, but we're not so clear about the dangers of addiction to negative, unspiritual, untruthful, ego-based thinking. So the world has gravity, the ego has gravity, and that gravity will pull you down, pull you into the fear. And when you're in that fear, you're not going to live a miraculous life. So it's so important when we wake up first thing in the morning to give the day to God and invite God into our minds, into our hearts. The Course in Miracles tells us that if we would just spend 5 minutes every morning with the Holy Spirit, meaning your inner teacher, your inner guide, that the day will be much better, that your likeliness of thinking with ego and making a big mistake severely diminishes if you just spend 5 minutes in the morning with God. We have the choice if we're going to think with love, speak with love, act with love, and we have the choice if we're going to think, speak, and act with fear. We have both of those voices happening simultaneously in our minds. And it's kind of like, you're standing in a room, and on one side of the room, you have some beautiful classical music playing, and on the other side, you have some heavy metal playing. Which music are you going to be able to hear in that room? You're only going to be able to hear the heavy metal. You would have to really get quiet and listen to the classical music. So the best thing to do in this situation is to turn down the heavy metal, turn it off so you can hear that still, sweet, small voice of God that will direct you. Now, how do we manifest a miracle? The process is simple, but it's not always easy. A miracle, according to A Course in Miracles, is a shift in perception from fear to love. When you make that shift in perception from fear to love, and you can't do that on your own, that's where you need the Holy Spirit, that's where you need God. But when you make that shift in perception from fear to love, a couple different things will happen, okay? So first you ask God for help. I need a miracle here. Now, the real miracle in any situation is going to be a change in your thinking. Right? Think about, like earlier, the example I was talking about, somebody having a financial challenge. The miracle there they might think is $10,000, and $10,000 might actually be a miracle for that person. But if there is thinking that led to the mistake that caused the need for this, then the miracle is going to be changing that thinking. If you have an unhealthy relationship with money, if you have an unhealthy relationship with food, if you have an unhealthy relationship with men, more money, more food, and more men are not going to be the miracle necessarily. The real miracle will be the shift in perception from fear to love. Now, after we've made that shift in perception from fear to love, often, in my experience, I've found that, like, when I ask for a miracle, like in a situation with relationships, for example, that an aha comes, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm looking at them, in a way God would not look at them. I'm judging them. I have my own realization, and then the situation no longer bothers me. But then there are situations and circumstances that do need a physical miracle, the second miracle. And that's what will come next. After the shift in perception happens internally, you then get your outer miracle. And getting that outer miracle is great as well. Now, A Course in Miracles tells us, let me grab it real quick, that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. All experiences of love are maximal. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. And it goes on to say that prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. It goes on to say that miracles are natural, and when they have not happened, something has gone wrong. So I invite you to take a moment and just think about your life today. Think about any inner emotional challenges you have, maybe some anxiety, maybe some depression. Think about your body. Is it easy for you to move your body? Do you have pains? Are you sore? Are you healthy? Do you have a body that allows you the freedom to move through life easily? Are you comfortable in your body? Think about your finances. Do you struggle with your finances? Do you have limitations financially? Do you also think about your relationships? Are there places in your relationships where you are not at peace? Are you experiencing loneliness, rejection? Like, think about your relationships. Are they the healthy, happy, satisfying relationships that they could be? Now, there's more areas of life, your career and your purpose, but those are just a couple different areas I want you to think about for a moment. You know, on a scale from 1 to 10, how at peace are you in those circumstances? And if you are not at peace in those circumstances, then that's where you need a miracle. I'm not saying more money or weight loss would be your miracle, but what I am saying, if you are not at peace in any of those areas of your life, then you need a miracle, and a miracle is possible. So what is the process, Derek, for manifesting a miracle in our life? So I have a 5-step process that I always share with people. First thing is we become aware that we need a miracle. So I just asked you that question, right? About your health, about your finances, about your relationships. Where in there do you need a miracle? First, becoming aware, hey, I need a miracle is the first step, right? Because if you're oblivious to the fact that your relationships aren't right or your health isn't right, well, then you won't even know to ask for a miracle. So awareness is the very first part. After we become aware of where we need a miracle, the second thing we want to do is go into what I call confession. Now, confession is something that the Jews and the Catholics really have down really, really well. And it's a very important part of a spiritual life that we confess to God, our mistakes, we confess to God our emotions, we confess to God our judgments, we confess to God where in our thinking, speaking, and acting we went wrong. And this isn't a sense of you're bad, you did something wrong. This is a sense of I got to get this off my chest and just get really, really honest with God, really honest with the universe, really honest with myself. And after I've done that confession step, the third thing I want to do is I want to ask for help. Dear God, please help me. Dear God, in this situation with my relationships, I need help. The Course in Miracles says that the best prayer you could ever say is just, Dear God, help me. So we want to ask for help. After we've asked for help, we really want to take this situation and hand it over to God. You know, we have a way in spiritual communities of being like, well, you know, it's all in God's hands. And yes, ultimately it is in God's hands, but you do need to consciously take the situation and hand it over to God. Dear God, I made a mistake in this relationship the thinking that created this situation is not going to get me out of it. And I recognize that, dear God. Please help me. I hand my relationships over to you. You hand those relationships over to God. You allow God to work his miracle, to work his magic in your situation. And then lastly, we sit in stillness and silence, and we wait for that shift in perception from fear to love. Now, I find that sometimes that the better I get at A Course in Miracles, I can get my answer in less than 5 minutes. I can make my shift in less than 5 minutes most of the time. Now, that's not always going to be your case, right? Sometimes it may seem it takes hours, even days, even weeks, okay? This is what I've heard Marianne Williamson call tomb time. It's the time between the death and the resurrection was 3 days. And often in the Bible, it's 40 days and 40 nights. So that is your tomb time. That means you could get your miracle in 5 minutes. It could be in 5 days, right? But in that moment, but in that in between time, that's where we want to be ever so carefully listening to God. That's where we don't want to get too involved in ego stuff. We don't want to get ourselves to get distracted. We don't want to go tell our friends about this relationship issue if they're the type of friends that are going to help you gossip and just really buy into judgment and fear, right? We want to like really create a place for ourselves, a space for ourselves where we can hear the voice of God. Because here's the thing, the voice of the ego speaks first and it speaks loudest. We got to get really, really still to hear the voice of God as it's communicating to you the thoughts of God, the things to say, where to go, the places to be, what to do. My favorite prayer from A Course in Miracles is, Dear God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? When you live from that prayer, you will manifest miracles right and left. When you live from that prayer, you become a highly tuned, intuitive instrument of God. And you begin living miraculously. So I don't know what your miracle would be. And to be honest, you don't know what your miracle would be either. We can't see tomorrow. God can. God is the one who knows what the miracle for you would be. But if you would just take 5 minutes this morning, and we're going to take 5 minutes here in a minute, take 5 minutes, consciously hand the day over to God, ask for help, ask Him where He would have you go, what He would have you say, and to whom. Live in that space, and I promise you, your life begins to transform. That's when suddenly the disease is gone. Suddenly the right medication shows up. Suddenly the right doctor to help you in treatment shows up. Suddenly the thinking that led to a circumstance is changed. Suddenly the money shows up. Suddenly the dream guy, the dream girl shows up. Suddenly your spouse and you are just getting along beautifully. And suddenly the right career, your career just starts to really take off and it begins to soar. And you're living in a place you never might have even thought was possible. But all it takes is just surrendering it over to God. God who has created the universe, God who keeps the planet spinning at the perfect speed, at the perfect axis, with everything that's perfectly needed for us to live and thrive here on the planet. That same power exists within you and can transform your life. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a brief meditation / prayer exercise. I find that the more I get into A Course in Miracles, the more I progress on my spiritual path. It's really blurry what is prayer, what is meditation, because it really is just communication with your inner self, and your innermost self is God. So I want you to go ahead and take 3 nice deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And after you take that final deep breath, just let your breathing return to normal. And I invite you to begin to relax your mind. Relax your body. Allow yourself to soften as you turn within. There's no right or wrong way to do this meditation. No effort is required. Allow yourself to sink more deeply into the calmness. Allow your thoughts to come and go. No need to try and stop them. Just keep returning your attention back to your breathing. Relaxing your body even more. Continuing to relax. Keeping our attention on our breathing. And I invite you to call to mind a circumstance in your life where you are not at peace. It could be any circumstance you thought of this morning. And once you've called that to mind, I invite you to just silently confess to yourself, admit to yourself, label the situation as what it is. Dear God, I made this mistake. Dear God, I'm frustrated. Dear God, I'm confused. Whatever is true for you about this circumstance. And after you've confessed this to God, to the universe, I invite you to ask God, ask the universe for help in this situation. Dear God, please help with this health issue. Dear God, please help with this financial challenge. And as you ask for help, be sure to ask for a miracle here. And then together, we're going to hand this over to God. So, dear God, this morning, as we're contemplating the places in our lives where we are not at peace, and dear God, we know that you know those areas. We know that before we even spoke it this morning, that you knew where each and every single person is not at peace. We ask for your help and we ask for your guidance. And whatever this challenge, the situation is that anybody is facing, dear God, we together hand this over to you so that you can make a miracle out of this situation. Dear God, we ask for the miracle We ask that you take it from us. We ask that the things we would not keep that you take. We would not keep a health challenge. We would not keep financial problems. We would not keep anxiety, depression, and judgment. We take that and we hand it over to you. We do not want it. And we know that you can transform it. So, dear God, I speak my word this morning knowing that a miracle is a natural occurrence for everyone who is listening live or listening to a recorded broadcast, that the miracle is a possibility, that a miracle will happen. We don't know what that looks like. That is for you to decide, dear God. And I affirm that as we wait for a miracle, whether it takes a couple minutes, a couple hours, a couple days, that the lives that we live are more deeply peaceful so that we can hear, see, feel that miracle impulse that will tell us what to think, where to go, who to be, what to do, who to talk to, and even what to say. Dear God, we are so grateful for this opportunity to communicate with you and receive our miracle. Take a nice deep breath. And together we say, Amen. And as you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and begin to bring your attention back to the room. So I hope that, what do I say? In our Tuesday night study groups, we part of what we do in our practice is to share and do a miracle report what miracles are happening in our lives, what miracles we need. I am finding more and more that is the biggest value I get out of that group, because I'm more conscious and thinking, where are the miracles? What is happening? And I'm seeing them more and more now because I'm reporting on those to the study group. So I say that because if you feel comfortable, be sure to report back your miracle, whatever you experienced. Send us an email, send us a message on Facebook. Now, before we wrap up, if you feel you need a little extra spiritual guidance this week, don't forget, we've got our prayer request over on loveisgreaterthanfear.org. We've got meditation classes. Let me back up. We got spiritual classes. We got counseling sessions, and we've got our, it's actually a bi-weekly study group. So the next one is December 13th at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. So join us for that. If you want to partake in that, I just need you to go over to the website and click on the study group and register on there. That way you can get those emails. And then also, I'm really excited about this. So in a couple weeks, we're doing our first in-person live event, a night of miracles. It's going to be a Christmas celebration with spiritual talk, with meditation, some beautiful music, and community. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And join me in saying our spiritual declaration one more time before we go. I surrender this day to God, that he may lead me to deeper peace, greater love, and fuller life expression. I surrender all my fears and desires to him. I ask that he show me the path from fear to love. Amen. Now, 2 more things before we go real quick. We'll be back next Sunday to talk about miracles and grief. If you are somebody who has been grieving, and it just, I wanted to talk about this because it seems, just from my perspective, I said to one of my friends last week, I said, grief is in the air. It seems like everyone we know has lost someone recently and having a challenge with it. So how do we deal with grief? Where is the miracle in grief? We'll be talking about that next Sunday. So be sure to join us. And if you have a family member, a friend, someone who is looking for some help with their grief, be sure to tell them about this. And then lastly, guys, our center relies entirely on your generous donations. We have a pending 501c3. So if you feel served by our community, if you feel called to extend some financial assistance our way, you guys can make a donation on PayPal. The handle is @LoveIsGreaterCenter. So go to PayPal @LoveIsGreaterCenter. You can set up reoccurring donations. You can do a one-time donation. And if you're curious about what do we do with that money, you can head over to loveisgreaterthanfear.org, click on donate, and there you can read what we do with that money and how it helps our community continue to grow. So I hope you have a miraculous rest of your week. We'll be back next Sunday. And until then, love one another. Bye.